Welcome back to some new Malicious Compliance Stories, where people comply to the letter but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Sign to Continue. This starts when my now wife and I decided to move in together and rent a house 14 years ago. We were in our early 20s, it was our first time renting, and we had a fairly low income, so our options were limited. Luckily, we found a place that was in a less desirable area, but had recently had some basic renovations. We signed a lease and life went on. Our first 12 months went by with a rental inspection from the agent every 3 months or so. Never got any feedback, and being new to renting, figured everything was okay. We had a couple of items that needed repairing in that time, so I met the landlord and got his details for organizing repairs. He seemed like a decent bloke, probably early 40s, reasonably handly, and did some repairs himself. The first year went by, the lease came to an end, they increased the price, and we signed on for another 12 months. Then it happened. About 2 months later, the agent came to inspect, along with the landlord's wife. The wife turned her nose up at absolutely everything and made a number of insulting comments about our furniture when she thought I couldn't hear. We got an inspection report after. That gave us a huge list of items to rectify and 2 weeks to do it, or they'd initiate proceedings to evict us. Naturally, after never hearing any feedback from any other inspections, we were shocked. The items were mostly minor nitpicks, with the worst things being to move our cats outdoors, clean the oven and poison weeds on the path in the backyard. We were fine copying it on the chin and doing what they asked, except for the cats. Initially, when signing the lease, it said no pets, but we requested and got acceptance for our indoor-only cats. It was noted on the lease, but not on the copy I had. I was kicking myself for not having it in writing, and knew I had no chance if they wanted to push the point. So I called the landlord rather than talking through the agent. He explained that tenants in the other house they owned had been using it as a lab, and the agents had never picked up on it. So when they found out, his wife insisted on going along to our inspection, hence why we got a bad report. I talked it out with him, and although he was very patronizing towards me, he agreed we could keep the cats inside, as long as we kept everything clean, and the next reports went fine. So we did as they asked, and they increased the inspections from once every 3 months to once a month, which is the minimum period they are allowed. We had a list of things to fix after every inspection. It made our life hell. We felt like intruders in our own home. We grew to hate living there, and it put a strain on our relationship. My father passed away around the time, so I ended up with inheritance money from his super fund and the sale of his house. My wife and I used the inheritance as a deposit to buy a house of our own, sorted out a loan agreement and found a place we liked. Now this is where I finally got my chance to repay them for making us feel like indentured servants that only existed to vacuum carpets and scrub walls in our home. By some miracle of luck, I negotiated the settlement date for our new house to be 1 week before our lease was due to end. This meant that we wouldn't have to break contract and be stuck footing the bill while they found new tenants. Better yet, they sent me a letter saying our lease was due to end and included a new lease agreement, with a large jump in rent. The letter said we either had to sign the new lease and send it back to them by a date that was 2 weeks before the end of the lease, or consider the contract ended, move out by the end of the lease term, and hand over the keys. It said nothing about telling them we didn't want to renew the lease, so I didn't. I didn't want them booking open inspections and intruding further on our lives to show the place to new tenants, and decided they didn't deserve extra notice. The days ticked by. A couple of weeks went past, and my wife and I were busy getting ready to move. I didn't get contacted by the agent again, until my phone rang 1 week after the new paperwork was due, literally the day before we were moving out. It was the agent, of course. They greeted me nicely and said it was just a reminder that we needed to sign the new lease and get it back to them. I told them, "Oh, we aren't signing it. We bought a house and we are moving out tomorrow." The other end of the line went dead silent for a good few seconds while my face got stuck in a grin. The agent quietly asked why we hadn't told them, and I said the paperwork only said to let them know if we were extending the lease, not about moving out, so I assumed they knew. She said goodbye pretty quickly, and the panic in her voice was glorious. She was screwed and knew it. I wish I got to hear more of the fallout, but my wife and I moved out, cleaned the house over the remaining week, and I handed the keys over. They never booked any open inspections in that final week, so the house sat empty for a while, waiting on new tenants, and the landlords missed out on some rent payments. We also checked the listings and saw they advertised it at a lower price than what they were going to gouge us for. As a bonus, a couple of days after the lease ended, the agent called me and said our contract stated we had to have the carpet steam cleaned, and that they were going to take the cost from our bond. I told her we'd have them steam cleaned, and she said we didn't. The carpet smelled like garbage. After me telling her again that we had, she demanded a copy of the receipt. I emailed it through and never heard from them again. I didn't mention that there was a cavity under the house and a couple of bags of rubbish I chucked under there as we were moving out because the bins were full. I guess the floor wasn't airtight. The next story is called Since I'm Dumb. Years ago, I worked as an assistant manager for a retail store in art supplies. My store was in a fairly affluent area, and we got lots of bored housewives who'd drop $500 because they wanted a hobby. So one year, the company offered a one-day only coupon for Black Friday. The store was swamped. Saturday was swamped. Sunday was swamped. I am running a register and trying to get people through as rapidly as I can when she arrives. We'll call her Debbie. Debbie threw 3 bags full of merchandise on my counter. I want to return all of this stuff and rebuy it. Okay, can I ask why? People sometimes did this because they'd used the wrong payment method or something, but I needed to verify. I bought all of this stuff on Friday at the store 1500 miles away, and their tax rate is higher. So I want to return all of it and buy it here to pay lower taxes. Now hurry up. I've been driving all day and I'm tired. This is going to be a pain on a very busy day over what comes out to be about $2.50. I confirm with the other manager, who agrees this is ridiculous, but we just need to do it. So I start her return. But the totals don't match up, so I have to call and talk to the on-call support rep. He tells me I can only refund my state's tax and not the other amount. The solution is to manually adjust prices until the tax and totals match. As I'm doing this, Debbie is complaining about how she's tired from driving. I'm taking too long. Her dog, her feet, her bag, whatever. But eventually I get everything balanced and process her return. Okay, the return has been processed. It's about time. You'd be done already if you weren't so stupid. Now I want to buy it all again. Cue Malicious Compliance Part 1. The thing about art supplies is they can be small and in multitudes. And that's what she'd purchased. Individual pencils, brushes, pastels, sheets of paper, etc. Sure thing, ma'am. But I want to be absolutely certain I ring everything up right, since I am dumb. So with a sweet smile, I take everything out of the bag and ring them up one by one. Of course, some stuff doesn't scan, so it has to be looked up. As I go along, she is getting more and more agitated. The insults get more frequent, and now everyone in the other lines is glaring at her. At last, everything is rung up, and I give her the total. Cue Malicious Compliance Part 2. Remember that coupon from the beginning of the story? The code has been pulled from the system, so her new total with the reduced tax rate is significantly higher than the old one. Debbie loses it and starts screeching. It's not even words at this point, only noise. Sorry ma'am, but it looks like you used our exclusive coupon on Friday. Unfortunately, that coupon will no longer be valid. Your new total will be this. She kept screaming, but eventually paid, snatched her items and left. It was a good day to be in retail. The third story is called Call Every Time. A few years back, I used to work retail at a brick and mortar shop owned by a guy that, well, let's just say that if we left him alone, the place would fall apart within minutes. There was me, 2 associates and 2 assistant managers, one of whom bought the business out, turned it into an online shop and is doing pretty well for himself. Said owner had no clue how our inventory system worked, let alone our POS system, but absolutely insisted that he knew everything about the place inside and out and threatened you with unemployment whenever things didn't go his way. One day I called his bluff and walked. Not 30 minutes later, while I was sitting in a nearby park, did he call me, begging for me to come back, squeezed a sizable raise out of him in the process. Now, all of that to this, the meat of this little bit of malicious compliance. That know-it-all owner was so convinced of his hype that he insisted and demanded that we call him after every customer transaction. Go over what was said so he could tell us we were wrong, even after upselling and setting up a delivery account. Mind you, this is in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where it's busy for roughly 5 out of 8 hours during any given shift. Cue the malicious compliance. Despite a line of customers at my register, I had to stop things, pick up the phone and make the call. All while my line of customers and what would be typical New York levels of patience would drop their stuff and walk out. The ones that stuck around rated 5, maybe 10 minutes for each phone call. It got so bad, at one point, one of my regulars grabbed the receiver. He proceeded to lay into know-it-all owner about how he's losing business because of his asinine policy. Owner dug in his heel though, bless his heart, and insisted that things be done his way. Alright, bad. I tried to keep the conversation receiver only. Now it's been upgraded to a speakerphone. Now everyone in the store, and I do mean everyone, can hear how much of a colossal douche he was. The business that was once about 5k a day in in-store sales dropped to just north of 1.5k, while deliveries, while at about 6k a day, dropped to roughly half that. With online reviews being the most hilarious I've read since I started working retail/customer services decades ago. Know-it-all owner was forced to give up on his policy. He eventually announced his retirement a few months later and sold to the assistant manager. It's something we still joke about years later in our occasional catching up sessions. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.